In the shadowy corners of the cyber underworld, where threats lurk in the dark and defenders wield their might, tonight we gather, but not alone. No, this evening, the finest minds in the cybersecurity realm have answered the call. Welcome to a night where the battle between attackers and defenders takes on a chilling new form. Welcome to the Atomics on a Friday Halloween special. Prepare yourselves as we summon our legendary guests, guardians of the cyber realm, known for their power to vanquish threats with skill and precision. From the depths of the digital crypt, we bring you the sorcerer of attack tactics, Nasreddin Venture Charlie, the vampire of vulnerability research, Spencer Alessi, the zombie slayer of threat detection, Jamie Williams, the Bat Commander navigating the night of red team adventures, Costas Tsielemis, and the phantom hacker whose name strikes fear across the web, John Hammond. But that's not all. Tonight, we are also joined by the dark wizards of innovation, Justin Elzy and Andrew Schwartz, masters of spells that reveal and defend. And of course, your hosts for this terrifyingly informative journey, the fearless duo, Michael Haag and Paul Michaud, guiding you through the fog of APTs, atomic red team simulations, and more cyber trickery than you've ever witnessed before. Get ready as the clock strikes midnight. This is Atomics on a Friday, and it's about to get spooky.
Hey, there's I hope we're live. Happy Friday.
Imagine having to replay that again. I mean, I wouldn't be upset by it.
Yeah, that was our next level intro. Let's see. We're early today. A couple minutes early, which is fancy for us. Welcome. Thank you all for joining. Yeah, thanks LinkedIn. Yes. Making us delay. It's hard holding a lot of people back. I know. We were trying to get started early. Okay, looks like everyone. Cool. Sorry, buttons. Yeah. We have a huge cast today. We should have had like a spooky theme. I didn't even think of like getting something more spooky. But there we go.
That was pretty spooky.
There we go. Isn't he supposed to be here today? So, Monster Mash, yes. Okay. Yeah, let's bring everybody in, Paul, yeah? And then we'll get started for today. I'm just going to start clicking buttons.
Same.
Hopefully everybody's ready.
Oh.
There we go. There we are. We have small cubes today.
Everyone has a mask on. I don't know who's who. It's so spooky.
Defense evasion. Actually, I don't even know if you can hear me.
That's not tradecraft.
I didn't think this through. Like, I just made a coffee and now I can't drink it. It's pretty unfortunate.
Accidentally pouring coffee down the screen now.
Just get a straw. Just slide it through.
That intro was wild. I had not seen. There was no prep in advance for that, but that was quite a treat.
Yes. Yeah, I know. Typically, most people are here for that.
I love the voice as well. The voice really, made it stand out. Definitely.
David Attenborough was a legend.
Yeah, we lost half the viewership after the intro, so that was good.
Yes.
Yeah, usually it's the first 4 slides that are, AI generated, and the intros, and then after that it just goes downhill. It becomes unhinged.
Yeah. Well, it is an intern after all who's preparing all of this. So.
Yeah, it's like side project stuff.
Just getting paid with exposure.
Brand recognition. I guess we kind of go through the lineup here. I didn't put any names because I thought we'd be able to see everyone's faces, but then everyone got bearded.
Oh,
me and Jamie ruined it.
So I'll get started. Michael Haag, thank you all for joining, and I'm a threat researcher here at Splunk. We've been running Atomics on a Friday, I think now for 2 years, Paul. I think this is 2 years. And
Well done.
yeah, we made it. What else? Yeah, I'll pass it to Paul. We got a lineup.
Muted.
You're muted, Paul.
You stop using computers for like 2 days and you forget how they work. Forever. So I'm Paul Michaud. I am a team lead at Unit 42's Managed Threat Hunting team. Been doing Atomics on Friday stuff with Mike for a couple of years. Before that, Mike and I did a lot with Atomic Red Team, previous organizations, doing a lot of atomic testing, threat hunting, detection engineering. So it's been fun. But excited to have a lot of fun today in our spooky Halloween theme. Let's keep going down.
We could do cubes if that's
next?
easier. Kostas,
Yeah.
do you want
I
to?
can go after then. I'm next, right? Yeah. My name is Kostas, and I do a little bit of everything: threat research, threat hunting, detection, intelligence, everything. I like doing everything. So yeah, happy to be here.
Man of many hats.
I guess I'm up. If you can hear me, Jamie Williams, threat researcher at Palo Alto Unit 42. I almost said MITRE. That was weird. Yeah, I'll probably come out of the mask. I feel like you can hear me, so I'm just gonna stick to the bit because I love like the scream face where I can just like react without saying anything. Just like such a classic.
Good.
It's iconic.
All right. I guess I'm next. What's up, everybody? My name is Spencer. I'm a pen tester at Secure IT 360. Kind of specialize and really love Windows and Active Directory. Kind of a PowerShell aficionado as well. So that's how I spend most of my time when I'm not making content or trying to do, fun stuff like make tools and all that fun stuff. So yeah.
Cool. I can go. Andrew Schwartz, Senior Manager of Detection Engineering at Huntress. Really passionate about attack emulation, simulation, recreation, and then finding out where all the artifacts are and seeing what happened and how we can detect it. Really into purple teaming as well, and just excited to be here. Thank you once again for always having me.
I guess it's my turn now. NAS, Detection Engineer, Threat Researcher, and doing everything related to Sigma and living off the land. That's pretty much it.
Cool. Well, hey, I'm John. My name's John Hammond. I'm a security researcher at Huntress. Spent a lot of time there. Hey, spending some time on the keyboard and out and about with public, either stage talks or reporter conversations, crap like that. And also some security education out on YouTube and online interweb stuff. Hey, trying to spread some awareness and get more education out and about on all the things we can. But super flattered to be here. Thank you so much for letting me crash the party with you all.
Absolutely.
I love how when John speaks, like you can tell that he speaks in front of the camera a lot more than the rest of us.
Tell me you've been on CNN without telling me you've been on CNN.
Oh, it just comes with the
John's
job.
got a few years of experience.
It's awesome. Well, thank you all for joining. Wide variety of backgrounds and associations, which is awesome. I'll lay it out there. If you have questions, throw them in a comment box on whichever solution you're watching on so that we can ask people on, I guess we'll call it a panel. We'll call it a cube stack. And if you have questions, we'll ask. Our agenda is very light because there's a lot of people. And so I think first off, I threw this next slide together, mostly just like, let's all get to know your favorite living off the land project. And I hope that everyone has visited lolol.farm by now, which is living off the land farm. And it was put together by our friend, Justin Ibarra, I think at Elastic, and meant to help keep all of these living off the land projects organized and in one place, because there's so many and they keep coming out. I guess I'll get started since I'm talking. My favorite farm project. I'm gonna choose one that no one's thinking of. Where's it at? Yeah. Where's it at? The Lots Project. I really dig the Lots Project. I actually find living off the sites to be really interesting because there's so many out there, and it's pretty much every legitimate sharing site for any kind of application or file or script or code that you could paste, and Lots has a solid amount of these. Yeah, I think that's really cool. Living off the land project that I would like next, it's between living off the land EDR, and I think I've tweeted it. Actually, I've tweeted it twice. Actually, two more. Sorry. Living off the land extensions and living off the land protocol handlers. I think those will all be really interesting. What do I nerd out on most? I've been really digging into Streamlit. Anybody else play with Streamlit? Okay.
Just you, Mike.
Yeah, just me.
You are single-handedly keeping Streamlit afloat. The amount
It's like anytime you do a
in
project,
Streamlit.
it's always with Streamlit.
Yeah, it is. Which I'll be showing again today. But yeah, I like Streamlit. It's cool. I'll show you that later. Recent hack, that was a true thriller. I think a most recent one for me that I've been working on was the Adobe Magento CMS, or I don't know what it is, like a content store thing. Was digging into that CVE, and so I had to rebuild Magento and do all this crazy stuff with Magento, and I learned a lot of stuff about Magento.
Did you do it with Streamlit?
I did not. I did it with Docker, controlled by Streamlit. Anyway, so who's next? Nas, you're next.
What? No.
Yes.
On the spot.
No. Okay, so my
Got
favorite LOL farm project, I guess it's LOL drivers. Nah, I'm joking. It's LOL Bass, actually. Of course it's LOL Bass, because it's the best project there is. Even better than LOL drivers. Even though LOL drivers is my favorite because it's so underrated and actually nobody understands it. Like everybody is hyping it because nobody understands drivers. So it is the most underrated, I would say. But LOL Bass is the one to choose. If anybody else chooses something else, they're wrong. Thanks for watching.
You stole my idea, Nas.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it actually because it has such a variety of like variations of how you can abuse something. Like, and it directly relates to what you nerd on the most. That's actually what I love to do on the side is pick up like a LOL Bass binary, reverse it, and try to, I don't know, find other things that people missed or try to understand how it works. And of course, Streamlit, because we are sponsored by Streamlit today, Mike. So thank you very much. But yeah,
they just pushed an update, so I'll be updating today.
Yeah, you know, I'm actually subscribed to the newsletter or whatever it's called. When they send me an email about the new feature, the first person that comes to mind is you. Like, oh, thank God, Mike will have new features. So yeah, what living off the land project do you want next? Yeah, I guess Mike said them, but I believe he forgot LOL cert. I really want to work on that because, yeah, we jammed on some like misuse certification, and there is a whole lot of shenanigans going on about misuse certifications, leak certificates, and how they can be abused. I believe that would be a very good project to get into. And yeah, LOL EDR is also amazing. Recent hack that I was a true thriller for you. I'm on vacation, so I have video games. No hacks actually. So I won't bore you with a video. I don't know. Maybe we'll have a section in the future about that. But for now, no recent hacks. Yeah. Who's next? Speak now, or
maybe now speak the next. Like the person who speaks the next.
Yeah, do like popcorn style.
So be you, Costas.
Oh shit. I knew I shouldn't have said anything. So okay, can go next. My favorite is hijack libs. I find myself going to this project many times, a lot more than the rest. I mean, of course, LOL and RMM and LOL drivers, I love them, but I thought maybe we shouldn't just pick the ones that it's under It's under the ones that we create or support in this in this podcast. So I guess I'll just go with a different one, the hijack libs, because DLL hijacking is just so it's used a lot over the past 2 years at least, and it's an easy way for threat actors to I guess evade defenses a lot of the times using DLLs and applications that are loading DLLs that we haven't seen so far, and there are so many out there. They can just install a random application that nobody has seen, and this random application is using a DLL to do certain things, and it's vulnerable to DLL order hijacking. So DLL load order hijacking, yeah. So it's very interesting to see all the DLLs in one website and just see the methods that see all the different applications that are loading these DLLs and how this can be abused. Great for detection, even better for threat hunting as well. And what do you nerd out on the most? I guess did I skip one? What LOL project? Oh yeah, what project do I want to see next? I don't know. I have trouble sometimes supporting the projects that I'm creating, so I just need to make sure that the projects that we have, I guess, are maintained properly before we jump to the next one. But if I had to choose another one to be part of, I guess LOL EDR. So yeah, how EDRs can be abused and can be used by threat actors to be used as a C2 platform for them to execute commands, etc. That would be a great project. I'd love to be part of that. And what do you nerd out on the most? It goes in phases. I guess nowadays I'm concentrating on the EDR telemetry project, and I launched the website just to make it easier for people to see all the different, to see the comparison and to do a comparison and to see all the different vendors all in one place and be easy. And we can talk about it even more later on. But it goes in phases. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, focusing on. A recent hack. There are so many every day, but and every day I'm involved in, I see different types of intrusion. So I don't have a specific one to pinpoint to, but yeah. Sorry, nobody. I guess nobody has said anything. A recent hack so far, but yeah. I don't know.
I was gonna do the Florida manager one, but I felt that was just too soon. Hasn't baked in longer than 48 hours. But
you assume that it's been only 48 hours, though.
I was gonna say, I guess it's been since June, but yeah, it's already baked. APT baked.
But yeah, that's from me. Who's next?
I guess Paul made a joke, so Paul's next.
I was looking for it.
Or I can go, Paul. It's up to you.
I'll go to you, Andrew. I'll
sure?
after you. You take it in. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't want. Cool. So, the LOL bin project is the original, right? It just drove so many. Definitely a favorite, of course. But the LOL drivers, I really, really love from the UX point of view and the searchability and just how it's laid out and presented to an analyst or to someone or to just any person that visits the website was really ingenious and really just simplified, creative. Everything from the hashes, the lookups to the charts, the background, just everything was just the whole layout experience was pretty cool. So that's why it's one of my favorites. for what's next, definitely got to say, bring your own EDR. That's definitely one on my list. But, I think there's a good one would really be file extensions. There's a wealth of stuff there that is just waiting to be uncovered. I had previously at Trusted Sec, I had Zach, one of my coworkers, try to go through and just find some stuff. What is this one thing we could look through and then weaponize? And he wrote a blog. And it was really, really cool. So, yeah, I mean, I think file extensions would be amazing. Nerding out, I play a lot of chess on chess.com. Not that good, but I'm trying to. I go in waves. I have a good day, then I go down and back up and back forth. So, but I'm also, playing games on my phone like Star Wars Galaxy Heroes and Marvel Strike Force. So I just kind of geek out on that. And recent hack, I gotta say, ECS 15, keep them coming. The ADCS stuff. I mean, let's go. I think that was a solid win. I was really happy to see Bollinger get a CVE there. I think it's really cool that they did award it him one in the end. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
Just waiting for Mike to say ooh on his show.
I think you just put yourself in the hot seat now, Spencer.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
Them
I
be
was
the
waiting for
rules.
somebody to
Them be
call
the
it by its
rules.
name, but I guess I'll be the one to do it. So my favorite, it's probably no surprise, but Lullabaz is probably one of my favorites. I'm also a big fan of the recent LOL RMM because I'm a big fan of RMMs from an attacker perspective because that's the kind of role that I play day to day. It's not as helpful for me from like an attacker perspective, but I see the obvious benefits for defenders for inventorying those and trying to determine what products are associated with or what activity is associated with which products, right? So that one I was really happy to see because I have been using RMM products for a while now during internal pen tests and things like that. So, and it's obviously being abused quite a bit. So that one I was really excited to see. But I'm like a very vanilla, tried and true Lullabaz guy, like internal pen tester. I don't think that's much of a surprise. What I would like to see next maybe is there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of good ideas that like Andrew and others have had. Excuse me, for new projects. The EDR one is definitely super interesting for me. I haven't abused that quite a bit. I haven't really abused that much on internal pen tests, to be honest. But I know it's definitely an attack vector for sure. But the one that I think was curious and just kind of piques my interest is something to do with Active Directory. So certificates or just living off of Active Directory abuses in general, right? There's a lot of Active Directory abuses that aren't just direct privilege escalations to domain admin, right? You have group policies, you have logon scripts, you have file shares. I mean, there's just so much there that could be a whole project in of itself of like something. But there's already a lot of frameworks like that, like hack tricks and payload all the things. And there's a lot of resources like that go through a lot of those attacks. But that would be an interesting one. As far as what I nerd out on, it's really just PowerShell and Active Directory in Windows. I really enjoy what I do day to day so much that I, do it when I'm not working for some reason. So that's really fun. I like contributing to projects and I help out with the locksmith project here and there. I like to joke with the guys that I'm a emotional support coder because I haven't contributed a lot of code recently, but me and Jake and Sam and the guys, we all get together and we chat once in a while, once a week if we can. And that's a fun community project to be involved in. But stuff like that, making like script sentry and like little trinket tools like that are useful and helpful in some way, shape, or form. So that's kind of what I nerd out on. I had a recent hack. I think I told Mike this. I was on a pen test recently, and I was kind of on a printer network, right? So I wasn't put on a typical user network. I was on a printer network. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll just, do an nmap scam. And I found all these Toshiba multifunction devices. And I did some, like the first Google search I did, it was like 40 vulnerabilities in Toshiba. And I'm like, there's no way this is like recent. This is probably from like 2001, right? Well, these were from 2024, 2023. These are very recent. And the one that I ended up exploiting during the pen test was a pre-authenticated RCE in SNMP, all because of default private community strings. So that wasn't my code. It was just the guy who found the vulnerabilities and did the research, created like a POC for it, and that's what I used. But that was fun. I never thought, like when I woke up that day, I was like, oh, I was going to get an RCE with SNMP. So that was pretty fun. So yeah.
I think it says so much about our industry that like you said, like low boss is like vanilla and basic and like not in like bad way, but like we've advanced so much research where like that's what like 2000 late now, and it's like amazing like that repository exists and we keep going. That's just like so cool to hear.
Yeah.
Did you get Meterpreter session 1 open? Did you pull out from those 2005 vulnerabilities? Like, oh, let me just check what Metasploit has in the vuln repo.
Yeah, I actually just installed Kali on WSL on their machine, and then I just spun up a netcat reverse shell. So like super basic.
So bring your own apps. You brought your own Kali.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, that's another,
that could be a next one.
It's another law farm. Bring your own OS.
Bring your own Kali.
Oh, John, it's me or you, I believe.
Oh, who wants it?
That sounded like an invite.
I'll take it. I'll take it. We'll save the best for last. Okay.
By no means.
So, my favorite farm animal of sorts is I love what the fuck bins. Like the concept of that, like everything's messy and like nothing's real, and your favorite application looks like an APT. Like that is such a cool concept, and I'm like I haven't like kept up with their contributions, but I hope that like repo just grows and grows because like not that. And the weird thing is like, what do you do about it? Because like it's fun and you laugh, but you're like there's no like real actionability of this repository because you're not gonna go back to their like devs and be like, hey, please don't like run who am I? Because they're like, hey, obviously you're doing that for a reason. But also, like, you can't just, like, ignore all that and just pretend, like, oh, I'm just going to, like, blocklist all these alerts based on, like, hey, like, you know, XYZ AV8. I almost named one. And now I'm, like, a vendor. I can't do that crap. But, like, XYZ AV agent does this weird thing, and we just kind of, like, everyone in the SOC just kind of rolls their eyes and ignores that alert. We can't, like, nuke it. So, like, it's such a good reality of, like, where we are as an industry. I just absolutely love that project. I was thinking about it. I think there's some really good ideas that have already come up, but I think a really cool next step, and like doesn't have to be too cliche, would be something about like cloud or edge. Like I don't know what you would do, but like I feel like there's something like SASE. Like these are weird applications that can like exfil data or be. And I know Justin LZ is obsessed with this. Like weird applications that can be used for like C2. I don't know if that exists yet, but that would be kind of neat. And then for like edge devices, it's kind of strange because you kind of get some of the like, you know, vanilla lolboss stuff covered there with like, you know, commandlets and things. I think something in like a config space where like this is like, you know, I almost named another vendor. If you had an arbitrary, edge device platform and it had like configuration settings that could be abused for certain things, I think that'd be kind of neat, especially like helping people kind of harden and maybe do something in that space. Let me see, where am I? My homework list. Okay, what do I nerd out on? Honestly, it's patterns. Like I've unfortunately ditched like all of my like adversary emulation stuff and have gone full Intel, but like that's really like freed me up to like see like weird things that happen. Like even today, like Mike, I saw you tweeted that like Ukrainian post where they were like doing the what is it, the CAPTCHA, yeah. And like the fast thing about that is like that CAPTCHA like copy and paste. Like Paul sent me that like we tweeted about that like a couple months ago, and like that was from I think Luma Stealer, and then like Darkgate did it in like May. So like that weird pattern of like crime TTP that kind of like, you know, goes under the hood and like works a little bit, and then today you're seeing like, was it APT28 use it, and you're like, that's crazy. Like it's stupid, and like outside of like a very small bowl of Intel nerds, not significant, but like that just kind of, especially as like a former MITRE attack person, like the like economy of tradecraft and like techniques and sub techniques and procedures is just so fascinating. And seeing how those things like scale, like some, you know, crappy crypto miner will figure out something that is going to be the next rootkit. Like that's just amazingly interesting. Again, super unactionable, but like fun to watch. And then I guess for a hack, I sift through a lot of like the same stuff over and over again. So it actually kind of gets mind numbing where you're like, oh, look, like exposed creds again, or like, oh, look, SSH, or like stuff like that. I think the stuff that's really starting to catch my interest is like bacon, egg, and cheese, like BEC stuff, just because it's like, it's fascinating in that there's like no malware. And it's like, they're not going like ransomware numbers where they're walking away with like millions of dollars, but they're walking away with like thousands, like for like pretty easy stuff, like logging into an email account and like sending a couple messages and then like dealing with like an accountant department or something. It's like, it's not like overwhelming. Like you're not going to get a mega yacht, but it's like, that seems like you didn't have to do any development. You didn't do like really any C2 infrastructure setup. Like the attribution is like pretty muddle and like pretty tough to come about. So it's like, I'm not pitching, please, if you're listening to this, don't do this. Like, please don't do business email compromise. It's a terrible idea. We will find you. The Department of Justice will, best case scenario, you'll get stuck in a country you'll never be able to leave. That sucks. Who wants to be a millionaire and like with no passport? That's unfortunate. But I just think it's fascinating to watch the evolution of like adversaries maybe realizing that like a smaller footprint may be more advantageous. So like, is it better just to kind of like be a thousandaire versus a millionaire? That was super weird, and I'm gonna pass it on to John, who I'm sure is gonna like light us up with some like very profound thought that just makes everything I say sound like very nonsensical.
No, not at all. I am fascinated by, for one thing, bacon, egg, and cheese as the representation of BEC was phenomenal. Goodness. Well, am I the last one? Am I bringing us home here on the slide? Goodness.
I think you're rocking caboose here. So
cool.
John's batting cleanup.
All right, run to the litter. Look, I think my favorite living off the land project amongst the array is, truthfully, because LOL RMM already got some love. LOL Bass, of course, is tried and true. I would probably shine the spotlight on the persistence info. I think, and I could totally be wrong, so forgive me, I think that was the origin starting with Grigoris Torek or Og Tweet I see on Twitter and X. But I just love those things because they're neat, because they're cool, because they're, how can we hide or sneak in a potential backdoor after we've either got initial access and we've escalated privileges and there is, some post-exploitation capability. I mean, the persistence is, for one thing, the necessity for the adversarial perspective, and that it's totally like the smoking gun at the crime scene from the defenders and detection point of view. So I love trying to eat up and get a little bit more understanding of all those different persistent spots. Living off the land project that I would love to see next. Truth be told, I was kind of struggling to think on this one because I feel like you have all covered, the whole industry has already covered so much ground. I'm like, wait, what else? What the heck? What do we have left? And that's not to say that we obviously don't still have things out there, but I just was struggling to think genuinely. I will probably piggyback off of Mike and Haag saying, like, you know what? We could do protocol handlers because I haven't seen those before in like, a documented resource to do these things with them. But I think there is a lot of really cool opportunity there just for like, especially what could be done. And because there are so many of them to explore and tinker with and try, it would just be genuinely fun and cool to research. Like Felina, right? Thinking way back to 2022, the like MSDT trick. And it's just, colon / and then some weird arguments you can arrange in whatever spooky incantation. That is cool. Same thing. What do I think of like, calc : / like, they're cool. Now we have a calculator. But like, there are so many of those that I wonder if you could literally leverage them for other interesting things. What do we nerd out on most? Truth be told, I might lean back on the cutesy, neato, interesting either endpoint tricks like those weird registry settings or a lot of those persistence info things. And I really enjoy those. Those are just kind of fun mental Easter eggs. But if I will pivot it to some more fun kitty IRL stuff, I have also been hey, nerding out to play some games and goof off as we're getting closer and closer to the end of the year. Some cool new stuff hitting the streets between, Sonic games or silly things. But for folks that weren't tracking, and this ties tangentially to some cybersecurity topic, the Game Freak little incident. I don't know if that was a phish or leak or some hack or one way or another, but there were a whole lot of neat, like beta InDesign Pokemon concepts, and those have just been hysterical and wild to look at. So really fascinated by the Pokemon Company leaks. And a totally random tangential nerd out, but sorry, I'm rambling. Recent hack. It was a true thriller for you. I will probably pull us to something that, hey, we got to be looking for and trying to explore and experiment on over at Huntress for the day job. But just a few days back, we saw what looked like different companies, different organizations from different environments compromised. And we were thinking, like, what's going on? This all seemed to happen at the same time. And we're thinking, oh, is this a skies falling bigger thing at play? Is there something attacking in mass? Blah, blah, blah. So normally, hey, rally the troops, get everyone sprung up into action to go figure this thing out. And obviously, as we would all expect, and is no surprise to anyone here, a lot of the persistence mechanism was screen connect. Like a lot of the backdoors were, those remote monitoring and management living offline, lol RMM tools. But the one commonality between all those was one specific software. Like all the hosts were running this one specific application, and we're thinking, that must be it. Usually when we dig into this scenario in similar investigations, hey, something is either publicly exposed, it's now being exploited or vulnerable. And I got wrapped around the axle, I think, really, really stuck up on like, this one program from this one vendor just seems weird to me because it's the one that's, again, the single breadcrumb common to all the hosts. And we tried to communicate back and forth with them. We tried to pull down the software to see if we could play with it. Didn't really get a whole lot, but we did hear back. And like the provider of that software told us like, we're dealing with some stuff right now. We've got an IR kind of going on, but we've tried to, hey, share some telemetry with you all, and we'd love to have an extra hand in this fight. So I thought, wow, this is an interesting, fascinating full circle where the provider came and started to work with us to get a little bit more, insight and visibility. So not to say a true thriller, but I think that was really, really cool because it's like we didn't even have to ask them. They just like, hey, please, we are all in this thing together, and we're seeing all the stuff that you're seeing. Let's join forces, which was pretty cool. Shoot, how long did I take to answer that question?
Well, with that, we're going to wrap up for the day.
Yeah, thanks so much, everybody. It was great to hang out with you.
That was good.
I got to say, whoever was doing IR for like the Pokemon leak, like they absolutely needed a brand that is like, we're going to catch you all. Like,
they will catch them. Don't worry about that. So,
was I off base throwing out Pokemon in the middle of the show? Have I ruined the professionalism of this tribe here?
No. Have you ever watched the show before?
Yeah. We're amongst friends. It's a safe space, right?
Did you say professionalism? Hold on.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
that would have been like an amazing like cut to Squirtle Squad where we all just like drop the glasses and just like hit a little like anime pose.
Heck yeah.
Did you miss the 2-minute intro? We set the stage early.
All right. What's our next AI image? What's our next progression of slide?
I think everybody's forgetting that Paul didn't even
Paul?
answer the question. Like
Paul.
he trolled.
I can't go now because
No, you can.
Hammond went.
No, take us home.
No, I'm not.
This is it. Wrap it up.
Can't step
Just
in.
repeat the same answer that everyone else has already said.
I was actually for the Lull Farm project, I was torn between Hijack Libs, which is just top tier. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I see Plug X during a week of just another DLL being sideloaded or other things. It's just constant. And then also the persistence one. Like those two are just so interesting. I mean, you think about different techniques that have been around for years, but yet they still work to this day. Like persistent scheduled task services, you name it, like they still work. It's not like we've solved security by detecting persistence mechanisms. Like if they still work, we're still going to use them. So I think those are interesting because you always find some like new gems or some abstraction of an existing one. From the Living Off the Land project, honestly, next, I'm a little torn. Say like extensions for like almost anything, like browser extensions via your favorite IDE extension, Notepad++ extensions, like whatever it is. Like everybody's always concerned about installing some application, but then organizations will do nothing to actually prevent you from installing the sketchiest VS Code extension ever, right? Like, oh, you can't install this application that's well known and respected and validated, but VS Code, fair game for anything. Like, so I just think that. The other one I'm thinking of is like collaboration platforms, things like Evernote, Obsidian, things where you have like a synchronization for like exfil, even potentially like command execution for things like Google Sheets, Google Docs, etc., which I'm sure you could probably do now with the Microsoft 365 stack in some capacity. So things like cloud platform for exfil, C2, etc., just to kind of fly in. Right? Think about, go look at like your firewall stats for, you know, applications going out to Microsoft on a day and see how much data is uploaded. You'd blend right in. As far as that kind of side of things, but if you're not looking at it, who knows? What do I nerd out the most? I don't know. I flux on this. Some days it's RPCs, and I bug Johnny about them all the time. Other days it's Active Directory, where I then bug Andrew all the time. But I say the biggest wins we've been getting lately is unmanaged hosts. Like, what I mean by unmanaged host is like authentication logs of devices not domain joined are good wins. Things like your firewall making anomalous network connections, your NetScalers, anything sitting like perimeter devices, anything without like your EDR agent making, you know, remote connections or executing to endpoints. Those have always been good wins so far. Just you're seeing them so many times. Like the biggest flow that I see like to this day so far is pop VPN. So whether they guess passwords, phish creds, logged into the VPN, brute forced it, password sprayed, whatever, and then just connect with an unmonitored device, and then that device is just going ballistic through the network. Like it's the almost tried and true method right now. Like, so if you're looking for something to go hunt, go look at unmanaged hosts, that type of stuff. Especially, I'll tell you what, the biggest win, I've said this before, I think I said this a couple weeks ago, literally go look at your authentication logs for Kali device. You know, there was the joke earlier about installing Kali on WSL. the stupidest things of just, you know, workstation name and your 4624s and 4625s of Kali, you'll find either the pen test that you didn't realize was going on, or you have a bad day coming up on a Friday at 2:00 in the afternoon. So sorry about that if you actually go start looking now. Another interesting one I had was DHCP logs. If you can get hostname resolution in DHCP logs, busted a box named Kali in DHCP logs recently. So that was fun. Not in the authentication logs, which is interesting. So the box dropped, didn't do anything, but issued a DHCP request, got them on the wire. So that was kind of cool before anything even happened. So I'll just go check those. Recent hack. I'm like Nas. I've been on PTO for a few days. Like, I don't know how computers work at this point. I don't know what's going on. So literally, like when I'm off, like I know nothing about what's going on. So best of luck to you all on this Friday afternoon. Hopefully there's no CVE drops. And if they are, well, I'll see you all on Monday. Somebody else's problem for the weekend.
I think we're still cooling down from the latest. What was that, like 2 days ago? But I was thinking about
what was that one?
The one we can't talk about because of our employer. But
I don't even know about that one. So
the Mandiant.
Good luck, Jamie.
Reported. I was thinking about like the bring your own like unmanaged device is closer to like a wall of shame. That would be actually pretty neat. Like it's just like a stream of just like, here's a bunch of like weird stuff doctors and random people brought into like their enterprise environment that shouldn't be plugged in, but we found you.
Seriously, things like just desktop or your standard default desktop name in like your authentication logs of just random device names is absurd. Even like bring your own devices for like orgs who allow that, where you can just VPN from your personal device and just see the randomest.
I wonder if you could do that with usernames too.
I kind of like the idea of like the misspelling. Like somebody should just start documenting all the misspelled like commands that people type in, like in like their sweet Cobalt Strike where they copy and paste incorrectly. Those would be good.
Oh,
Shell who
that's
I know.
actually the best part of the defer report. Like you don't put it in every report, but when you do, like the operator mistakes, like I love that section. That's just good.
Chef kiss. Password and the username, been there. Like you ever just accidentally type in your password into the username field and then you're like, well, I guess I gotta go change my password now. Yeah.
On the command line.
Yeah.
Or just or just your Splunk logging all your passwords on the command line in plain text. So you break into the Splunk and you rip out all the attacker breaks into the Splunk and steals all the passwords of
just or password stored in the command line for your services.
Mm-hmm.
There was a tweet the other day where I don't remember who it was, but they said that they were looking for like passwords.txt and alerting their customers. Who was that?
Huntress.
I was like, Huntress. Yeah, who's that? And I thought that was, it's very, I remember doing that actually at Red Canary, helping customers find where people were laying down their passwords and everything like that and trying to clean that stuff up. Because, yeah, that's
passwords, creds.txt,
I
credentials.
must be watching my engagement this week, Mike.
Mine are on a post.
It might be.
I bet you see a lot of those things, right, Spencer?
Yeah.
Just creds lying around on open source, right?
Yeah, shares is my favorite because it doesn't. You don't have to use like PowerView's find interesting domain share files. Like you just write your own like one-liner to grab all the servers and crawl all the shares, look for TXT or unattend or XML config files, web configs, and all that. For an environment that hasn't done a lot of pen testing or isn't like quite mature yet to get to that point where they've gotten rid of that, it's everywhere.
Yeah, and we don't want to give ideas to the bad people here that are listening. I don't think any of them are listening at the moment. But if you do, just close your ears for a second.
My favorite Spencer was always finding those open shares of VMware images of snapshots of domain controllers and whatnot, and then bring them down using volatility, dump hashes on them, and it's those are the wins I really truly enjoy, is when you can innovate and take a blue team tool and reuse it for offensive purposes. So
yeah, there's somebody that created a tool, I forget what it's called now, where you can mount the image live like on disk. And you can like crawl through the file system. I've done that before to pull out like unattend files. I forget what it was called. I'll have to look it up.
Speaking of like spooky things though, like has like the, I guess, immersion of like more easy to deploy like canary tokens and things like that, has that like gotten into the head of an offensive operator yet? Or are you still like, oh, it's a possibility, but probably not here? Or do you kind of have like standard checks for like, oh, I'm not going to end up on like a Thinkist blog for playing around with this like very clear password.txt that is either just like a goof or like,
I'd consider it an honor to be retweeted by things in one of those alerts, like happy customers. Like, wait, that was my. That would be funny. I do get paranoid sometimes when I'm like, that seems too good to be true. 9 times out of 10, it's not too good to be true. And then like the one time it is, and it completely burns like my entire pen test. Like I've been good and like there was some stealth involved, and then I get burned and it's like everything is just set on fire. So most of the time when I see it, I'm not super paranoid. But there are certain like things that just make me paranoid, like passwords and AD descriptions. That's one that I haven't seen a ton lately. But that one makes me paranoid because it seems like the obvious one that you would do. So that one kind of makes me paranoid. And then if it's just like a blatant password file in an admin share, particularly, that one also like makes me like, did they put this here for me or is this real? So those are the two scenarios for me, at least personally, that make me kind of suspicious. But
I think it's how the trap is implemented as well. So if you have a trap on looking for the logs that someone opening that file, or is it that when you open the file using Word, for example, it tries to reach out to, it's how Canary works, right? Reaches out to the remote resource to collect an icon file that it's invisible for you to see, and then, it triggers an alert in that way. There are many ways, different ways of implementing traps like this. And yeah, I wouldn't open it. I would just try to take it on my own, personal sandbox and maybe open it there. But
well, I'll give you a hint, by the way. Yeah. You can, most of this can be found by looking at when the files or stuff were created. By using like something like everything, you can do like use forensics before actually looking at the files. Be the forensic investigator to try and figure out, because usually a lot of the files are created. I don't want to sing like a single moment, like a registry key, an attribute has been set. You can find it in the log of AD or something like that.
Oh, is that like the next big class? Is like digital forensics for red teamers?
Oh, blue team feeds red team? Oh wait, what?
Crazy.
What?
I think was it Justin LZ wrote that like Python script that like parses like token files and looks for, I think it's the same thing as like the go fish me like URL headers. Like there's like certain strings and certain URL patterns you can just kind of find like, oh, that's clearly, especially if you're probably not like a paid customer, like their freemium stuff. Like again, as you said earlier, if you're attackers, please close your ears. But I think there's some
you can actually learn a lot from the logs, because like a lot of setups for defenders happens in the log. Like I don't know if you've seen that tool that checks the Windows Defender logs for event ID 5007 that indicates what like exclusions have been added to Windows Defender, and it's there in the event log. And there is no event log for checking the event log, so you cannot even determine that people are like doing, I don't know, recon, but you're just looking at the event log. Like that's one of the first steps you check, like the 4624s, the Windows Defender logs, because it will tell you a lot about what happened like on the machine. So,
and we see a lot of threat actors recently, I personally do anyway, that are looking into those logs. They're looking into process execution and log-on events, looking to see who is on the workstation, what times they're connecting, etc. So yeah,
of all the weird shit I learned in attack evals, the number one thing was like security software is just software. It has all the same flaws, all the same like, oh, that shouldn't happen, but it does. And I think that gets back to like what the fuck bans being like a magical grace on humanity.
One interesting thing, I don't know if you know it, but I've learned it like last year, is that you can set up a scheduled task a trigger for scheduled task to be an ETW provider event. So like a service, sorry, not a scheduled task, but a service start. Like you can use persistence, but as a type of a schedule, you can use an event. So you can set it for like an ETW, which is security auditing, for a login. And when somebody log in, the service will start. Like it's pretty much unknown a little bit, because nobody knows that you can use an ETW as a service schedule, but it can be done. Like you can do a lot of the things that a regular user would do, but they are not trackable easily. Like that one, I don't know, Palo Alto maybe reported it a couple of years ago, that you can use a trigger for scheduled task as an event ID. There is an event ID flag where you can specify an event ID, and then you use the create event binary, which is a very old binary that lets you create random events by a very specific provider that you can name it whatever, and you can trigger scheduled tasks specifically via your own event. Or anyway, now it's becoming an OST or attacker tutorial, but nonetheless.
So how you do that is first you open PowerShell, highlight all the steps. Now let's go through them.
What you do is you download all your tools and you upload them to VirusTotal, and then they will send you an email with the instructions to do that. Go. That's attackers, open your ears. That's
yeah, exactly.
Everyone knows the first thing you do is you run Who Am I. That's you've logged in as a user, but you don't know who you really are, so you got to run Who Am I just to remember who you are.
And if the output's wrong, you do like / your name, and then it'll correct and like register on the host for proper usage.
I mean, if you're lucky enough to get a Mimikatz on, remember it can do more than just dump creds. You can play Minesweeper, get the answer to the world, and make coffee. So
Plug in your busy light. Like
that's right.
Why not? I love this is like I'm curious, and this is a very interesting group to ask this. Like, not a knock on Microsoft, but to your point, like when backwards compatibility and features go too far, like at what point do we need to scorch earth and go back to like server core, where it's like, hey, you don't even have a GUI yet, and you just like system 32 is like kind of just bare bits, like you can type, you can maybe turn on a GUI, and like BYOOS, I guess, just kind of like slowly like, hey, like this is going to be a POS system. It needs two things. Screw the rest of it. Like I think that's a hard thing to sell and it's a hard thing to engineer, but I think that's the only way we kind of get ourselves out of this like tech debt roller coaster that we're just like all comfortable sliding down.
I mean, the tools are there, but the real question is, how do you know what's not needed and what's needed? That's the real question, because you can use a lot of the things like application, whatever, whitelisting, or you can use all of that cool things. But if you ask any experienced player, like this binary, is it necessary? And the answer is unknown. Like I'll give you an example. One thing I learned like not so long ago is that there is a utility called Wextract on Windows. Okay, it lets you extract stuff. Okay, everybody knows that. But when you go on Wextract, there is no command line, but it has actually a command line. But if you go to many like third-party vendors, you will see like an extraction utility or an installation utility, and everybody is using the same like flags. In reality, it's a reskinned Wextract. Like everybody is using, but Microsoft never documented it. And you might ask yourself, okay, Wextract existed from Windows XP. Why the hell is like it exists right now? But most of the tools that have uninstallers or whatever, they are actually using that, but it's not called that. Okay. But if you reverse it and you use like the whatever IDA to look at the flags, it's actually pretty much the same, because it allows you to create those extraction binaries. And like what I really like not fault Microsoft, but it's like you need to be like in between, document everything or not, because most of like when you do false positive tuning in a SOC or something like that, half of the questions, like an experienced SOC level whatever 15 mage versus a noob, is that they know the basics and they know what's like how they can differentiate between this and that, and most of it is not documented. Like you learn it via brute force. You mentioned WTF bins, and that's the whole point of it. It's like, what is this? Why is MS Edge spawning? Who am I? Who knows? but it exists. I think it's a very, very difficult thing to answer, but
I think you're spot on. Like nuance and like complexity doesn't scale. And I think like this is a really weird analogy, but it came up at like the bar last week. But like I always think like like the analogy for security is like, obviously we're not gonna like cure anything. Like we're not gonna ever like solve security. You just kind of slowly treat it. But the problem in our industry is like, if you draw an analogy to like medicine, like we haven't really like created any vaccinations or actually solved any real problems. Like in the world of like medicine, InfoSec is like, you're dealing with COVID-19 and like intentionally made bioweapons, but at the same time, people are still dying of like the plague. And like, hey, like you're trying to talk to like organizations like, hey, like you should do all these things, eat your veggies, exercise, and then you're still probably gonna like die of scurvy because like we just haven't really figured out how to solve that either. So you're just kind of like slowly just like telling companies to do all these things and invest all this money, and like, hey, we have 6 people, we don't have time for all this crap. And you're telling me like I'm ever so slightly decreasing my chances of still getting sick. So like from the non-InfoSec perspective, I get it. Where you're like, why the hell would I do any of this? Like, shut up, nerd. That's really expensive. And like you're telling me it's not even really gonna help me. Like, why would I go to the gym and eat veggies when I can just eat donuts and basically end up in the same place?
Jamie, we have one question that came in.
Oh God.
It's not even a question.
So
just yeah.
You walk down, you go to your local grocery store, you grab as many bottles that like labels look pretty, you dump them all in like a gallon jug and you just chug it. And that is like your InfoSec wine pairing.
Does it have to be bottles, or can it be a box?
Yes.
But make sure you slap the bag first.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You got to loosen the tannins
Yeah,
up,
shake
right?
up the particles.
That's sommelier 101.
I don't know. I always go back to that we just chase the shiniest object and we'll throw money at it versus actually fixing the underlying issues of cyber hygiene. Like, any orc who does it right, like look at orcs who successfully navigate complex IRs, who have the basic fundamentals of knowing their assets and their software down. Like, those organizations just have it unlocked. But the problem is, doing those things aren't the sexy thing. It's not AI embedded. It's not all this other garbage of whatever vendor's going to shill to you. Like, it's the basics and it's the fundamentals, but nobody wants to do them, right? Like, why does somebody want to spend 3 months in the gym doing the basics of lifting 10-pound dumbbells to work on the form versus going, well, I'm going to try and just bench press 150 and then just walk out the door? Like, nobody wants to do the hard work anymore. They just want the easy button of, hey, because the marketing is, I'm going to solve this problem for you, but it actually doesn't solve a problem. It creates more problems. You're just then deflecting problems down the road to something else. So in reality, again, we're not solving it. We're just spinning it in a circle and going around and around and around until the next thing comes up.
And 100% agree, but I think like the hard part of selling our industry is like, in your analogy, like that company that did all the hygiene, everything right, they're still having IR. It's just easier.
Sure.
And they're like, oh, this is great. Like, your problem isn't that bad compared to everyone else. And they're like, what? I did my 10-pound dumbbell lifts, like you said, and now I'm still like getting my leg amputated, or what is that? Like, why? Like, I didn't die, but like,
we live in the 21st century. Yeah. But the problem is we live in the 21st century of the idea of the postal system. It's never ending. You're going to get breached. It's going to happen. And once people accept that and realize that, and saying that like our goal is not to get breached or to never get breached, like that should never be the objective. Is it great if you don't? 100%. Year after year, if you don't have a major intrusion, like that's a win. But in the same regard, it should always never be that state, because that's just going to lead you to burnout. It's one of those unobtainable goals, right? It's like saying, I want to be happy all the time, 100% of the time. You'll never get there. So strive with being content. Strive with, you're going to have incidents. It's just, how do you mitigate them so they don't suck and burn as much, right? That's the goal.
It's making it harder, right? So
Yes.
It's not that I won't get breached, is how can I take the mean dwell time of an adversary from X and lower it down just by 10 days or by 15 days or so on and so forth. And you look back and, I will stand and die on the hill of what the Australian Security Directorate published as catch, patch, and match. There's a reason, they say that if you can do those three things, you can potentially mitigate 85% of intrusions. Like, why, PSSX still use the same things are over and over again. You read the diff report, or other breach reports. A lot of the same fundamentals are being rerun or re-executed by attackers. So with catch and patch and match, it's patching systems, so good vulnerability management, allow listing or deny listing of applications, and then it's getting into matching the right level of user to the right level of permissions. So you have some level of identity access management control. That doesn't mean have only one domain admin, but that just means, can we just try to remove local admin from a lot of basic things, local admin from a lot of systems, and stuff like that.
I came into the conversation late because I got kicked. I think Mike kicked me from the group.
Because my Streamlit app was acting up there.
But I was reading the Microsoft Digital Defense Report, which I thought was really good. I mean, there's a lot of marketing stuff in there, and to echo what Paul said, there's a lot of marketing stuff in those reports. But one of the stats really stood out to me, or a couple of them, was 61% of attack paths lead to a sensitive user account, and 40% include lateral movement. So like just those two things alone, if you focus on like meaningfully, protect sensitive accounts tier 0 and protect lateral movement, like just that alone could be a significant improvement to your security or to your organization, and some of that obviously is a big lift, like tier 0 is not easy. Protecting lateral movement is not easy. You have to protect RDP and PS remoting and WMI. Like there's quite a bit involved, but just those two things alone, could be a significant improvement.
Yeah. I'll say one last thing is, you should hear Johnny Johnson talk about a really good understanding of the attacker has to do certain things. The attacker is not just going to, you know, they're not just going to, you know, breach the perimeter and sit on some system and just sit there indefinitely. They're going to do a finite number of things. And the question is, can we create detections around them? Can we create prevention mechanisms around them? Can we create deception mechanisms around them to, you know, trip up the attacker in some way to, again, go back to reducing that dwell time? And if we can, you know, focus on one particular, you know, area of I don't want to steal his thunder. This could be a topic for next time, but if you can focus on specific areas, maybe within the kill chain and look to prioritize those first, instead of trying to catch maybe all the novel initial access techniques, you know, there could be a greater chance of moving programs and moving security forward at places.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I assume breach, assume compromise has become so popular. I mean, that's a majority of our internal engagements is people just, you know, they don't, although more recently now people are looking to do a lot of phishing and social engineering, but like the assume compromise approach is so good because, you know, you get past that point where you just assume something bad's going to happen. What are we going to do after the fact and how bad can it be? But yeah, I agree, Andrew, like focusing on those specific things that are high value for an attacker can be really good wins.
But you know, there is one aspect which is quite interesting, which is the security teams inside of companies that must defend assets are usually very small to achieve those kind of things. That's why a lot of people use like MDRs and whatever. But if you look at it, like everybody switched to consultancy because they hate working at a company that can't achieve anything in security because nobody listens to you and all of those bad things. But if you think about it, is that nobody actually knows what they're talking about. Nobody believes in you, blah, blah, blah. And all of those, like, yes, you know the answer, but you cannot implement it. And like, but my takeaway from all of your points is that maybe, as Paul said, it's not that enticing or sexy to work on those like very, very tedious things like inventory management and whatnot, and like know what software is installed. But at the end of the day, like, right now, the typical, like the perfect workflow is that you need to prepare the environment for an MDR, so that because an MDR has such a large like group of people working behind the scenes, and they can alert you, and they have those detections. Because if you actually focus solely on writing detections, you're actually burnt out. Like it's a done deal. If you're focusing on asset management, you don't have detections. Like you need a lot of people to achieve those high end goals. So at the end of the day, maybe security should be like, you should focus on like managing your inventory, whatever, and then hiring those kind of MDR so that they can help you like oversee everything and make sure that you will get breached, but at least make the experience less painful, and it would be a cool story afterwards, instead of working like 7 days, I don't know, until 11 p.m. trying to figure out what the attacker is and which machine is infected, and should we remove the Active Directory, should we reset it, who knows.
It's that machine named TechSpense, you know. So I'm just going to start renaming my host name to that.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember that guy on Twitter. I forgot who done it, but like somebody was compiling everybody on the blue teams when they share screenshots. Like sometimes they share logs and they don't remove their workstation, and that was like a gist or a paste bin with every blue teamer that shares like blah blah blah. They have the host name in there. It's amazing. Like when you see them, run away. Exclude this machine from my
all those
scope.
PDB files.
Yep.
Man. Hey, I know we're coming up, but if people have time, I think we can probably jump on to one more question, wrap it up.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Oh, I got slides. Triple T. Tricks, treats, and threats. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out which one. Paul, 1 or 2?
One.
Just go with 1.
I didn't read these, so I don't know what the questions are. I just
literally
flipped the coin in my head. Yeah. Well, I mean, I did read them, but I didn't like look at the screen. I was just like, oh, 1 or 2, pick one. So 1.
Okay, 1. All right. Attackers are always brewing up new tricks. What are some of the latest tactics, techniques that have sent chills down defenders' spines. Let's go first with Andrew, since you're rolling up on your time. What is putting some spine tinglingness over in your world?
Oh man, it's always that, that AD target. ADCS, SCCM. No, but I mean, I think it's it's definitely the unknown of unknowns. There's always going to be that zero die. There's always going to be that CV that comes out. So I think it's the blending in, the RMM and some of that stuff. That's kind of really coming into Huntress, and being in a different position, from leading purple teams at Trusted Suck. Just seeing all that stuff, man, it could kind of get like the Wild West a little bit, and it really does send that chill down your spine of trying to baseline all these different organizations and understand what does what, who does what, who uses what, when they use what, but also just the countless number of sheer RMMs out there is just, I mean, it's really mind-boggling.
Yeah, there's that short list on that site, lolrmm.io.
I feel like I hear about a new RMM like every day.
I mean, it's almost constant, I would say. I mean, John would have a good understanding of it, maybe a little better, probably a little better than I would. But yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's almost like every other day I'm like, whoa, I've never seen that RMM before. Let me go look it up or figure it out, or let me go try tie back this activity that's very, very common. Like you see certain RMMs just executing certain weird name pipes that are very, very common and associated with attacker tradecraft. And you're just like, how do you really distinguish that between possibly what is benign and what is malicious? And I guess it comes down to intent, and attacker intent.
I'm waiting for the guys. Don't detect the RMM, detect the behavior, like CLI. Detect the behavior, not the tool. But yeah.
I mean, user behavior. I mean, there's user behavior for Active Directory. There should be, user behavior for RMM.
RMMs are a joke. Like there are so many. Like it's insane. Like it's very similar to DLL in search engine hijacking. Like Costa said, you can install any application and now you have a DLL hijack and you're done. Like you can bypass any detection that's not based on baselining. Like if it's based on a list, you're already screwed. And it's very similar with RMMs. Like if you don't use baselining, their behavior is super weird. Like a child of this spawns a unnamed pipe. This creates a scheduled task with PowerShell base 64 encoded. Yeah, it's insane.
Just shut it down. No, legit. So the inverse is A, let me find all of the RMM tools, or B, it's to say anything gets denied at the perimeter, or if you're using some agent-based proxy, shut it all down and only allow the things that you explicitly need. Then
you do that
backwards.
in a big organization. Oh,
yeah.
I can imagine what will happen. You will have a phone call within 2 minutes saying,
Yep.
What have you done?
Oh, I know. I've been in those spots and actually been the guy to press the button to shut them all down to find out which ones were needed. That's the fastest way to find it, because there's things that have been installed for decades or years that have never been touched since and are just not needed anymore. And so sometimes it is in a controlled manner to just break it for a minute and then turn it back on.
Well, in my experience, the difficult part is taking the decision to do that. Nobody wants to be in that position. So putting your neck out to take the decision and just make people unhappy, people that are more powerful than you in that organization, causing trouble for yourself, and probably they will show you the door after that. Do you want to take that risk?
I think that's, in my opinion, this goes back to one thing that I did early on in my career, which was I shut down a public /24 of our network and killed productivity for 2.5 hours and lost like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, to me, that goes, okay, well, where's the resiliency, right? If one thing is what cripples a network, then that network was not designed to be resilient, right? Like if we talk about the CIA triad, in which everybody loves to shill, right? Like if your availability goes down by one thing or a user clicking one link and then all of a sudden you have ransomware like 4 hours later, like that network was not designed to succeed or to win. And so in some cases, yeah, it'll work. In some cases, yeah, you can't just do that. And that's, you know, just like security. We can't just say, well, this thing's going to solve all security. Like it's not going to be true. But there's things and ideas of which you have to switch and burn. But RMM, though, legitimately, like people need to go and do the hard things to figure that out, because the amount of things that are just getting dropped in, you know, in some organizations, I've seen 17 RMMs across the board. Like, talking hundreds of thousands with that many.
That's one thing I agree with Paul on, is like just the sheer amount of RMMs. Like the environments I've been in, it's been like 1 or 2. Like to see 7 or 8 different ones would be kind of interesting, or kind of like a weird scenario. Maybe like Costa's saying, in a very large organization and like shadow IT involved, that would be the case. The environments I'm in, I'm biased in my perspective, because the environments I'm in most of the time have like, they have their one tool and then maybe something else that a vendor uses or something like that. But I could see that being difficult in a larger organization, maybe easier in a smaller organization where the team all knows each other and they're fine with it, and they particularly if you have buy-in for it.
Yeah, it's easier when you don't have many people shouting at you at once. But yeah, it is very difficult to come to the decision to do that. But then again, in a big organization, you can use that project and make the informed decision of, or putting it in front of people who are the decision makers and just say, okay, this is the information, this is the danger, or, of us having so many different RMMs in our environment. We have to do something about it. Here are the pros, here are the cons, here's the risk, and you'll have to let them do the decision.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's the balance between security and efficiency or productivity, right? Like if you shut a system down, or you quarantine a host, or you turn a network off or something like that, the lost revenue, say, from that is X amount, versus if it was an incident, right? The PR disaster or the incident itself, ransomware, organizations have to weigh those costs and benefits,
Yeah, people forget that a security team, or within a big organization especially, it's just that to highlight the risk. It's not that to take decisions of that scale. And I mean, if you have the power, props to you. I don't know, but we're there just to help people make an informed decision. And then they can sign off the risk of their decision, and we can move on. But then this is our job, to bring it to their eyes, and they can just make the decision.
All right, we I think we're hitting our time. Let's see. I think John, who probably had the least amount of speaking time today. No, just kidding.
You guys are doing your thing. I just want to let you enjoy, and I was tuning in.
Which we're very thankful for. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and answer our defenders' spines chilling tactics and techniques question here. What are you kind of seeing as, like, I don't know, I'm gonna say cutting edge attacker techniques?
Oh, I feel like I have a pretty crappy answer. Because obviously it's been like seen around before, and we might have already even just mentioned it. But one of the recent things I think folks were chatting about was seeing and obviously all along the lines of our living off the EDR or using and leveraging the defensive tools to be used for offensive. There was a recent thing I think SecureList put out of, hey, we see the adversary drop the WASA agent, like the open source SIEM or XDR air quote solution, and use that for a lot of their capability. And I thought, that's neat. That is certainly going to fly under the radar for, I think, for most. But at the same time, we've had that conversation before. It's not super duper new, but you don't always see it. So it's just, little raise my eyebrow when that's back up in action. But what do you think? I don't know. I'm sorry. Am I barking up the wrong tree? Has everyone already been chatting about this?
No, that actually aligns right with our living off the land EDR piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of it kind of picked up on Twitter the other day, was just talking about this agent being used.
I think I've seen some notion of like Velociraptor used and abused, right? I'm trying to think of others. Obviously going for more of an open source, but still well-known, but trusted and reputable, and like not something someone will raise an eyebrow at, but I don't know how easily, a threat actor could take whatever genuine, legitimate $1,000 EDR or AV product off the street to use and abuse. Rumblings.
What's the other one? Google's GRR.
Oh yeah.
OS query.
Don't forget
That's
that.
a free one too. Yep.
So you can't execute code with OS query, can you?
No, I think you can only query.
It's only retrieval.
There is a new project called the Lost Project that started documenting some of the recent EDR ones. Trying to find it real quick, but I can't.
Googling Lost Project is going to put me in an entirely different place.
Yes.
Yeah, you're gonna get rabbit hole real quick.
Yeah, it's on Twitter. Just made a round. What's his name? Just retweeted it.
What is
it?
I
did. The Lost Project.
No, I mean, like, what's the project? Like, what's the objective of the project?
It's like living off the security tools or whatever. Like they pick up a legitimate security, like very similar to the WASA thingy. Like they tell you how to abuse those things. It has OS query, I believe, too. So
neat.
Yeah, but it's saying that this is surprising. It's not actually, because it's very similar to PS exec or whatever. It's just a utility that is, which begs the question: should you monitor everything? Because people are focusing on this, but there are 17 other things. Like at the end of the day, it's about prevention and knowing what you have. Like if you allow for random stuff to be installed, you're gonna suffer, and there is no backing down about that. So,
yeah, I think this is an interesting project, and one of the things I don't think defenders do enough is monitoring of their own security tools. Who's logging in, what's being executed, especially things that have a large reach, such as like EDR, where you have remote code execution capabilities that run a system. Everything that has the ability to live response is basically system or administrator in the case of one EDR that runs that creates a local admin account and then deletes it when it's done, which is the most interesting. But obviously that's only one skip away from system level compromise. But who's logging in? When? Why were they logging in? Etc.
Oh. I was just tagged on Twitter. Sorry, as I was scrolling, distracted off to the side. Namecheap just released the .locker TLD.
No.
No.
Like Google just
incorrect. I disagree.
That's wild.
Just what was the other one Google did? .zip.
Yeah. Bushido tokens immediate response. Is this a honeypot for ransomware gangs? This is a colossally bad idea. It's just funny to see that. Sorry, totally nerd snipe from the corner of my screen.
Well, that's another TLD. People should just go block at this point. You're not using it at this point. You were never using it up until this point, so you can safely just go block it.
And while you're there, you can just block all newly registered domains.
.tk as well.
So
you are not expecting any legitimate business contacts from Taklao.
So, John, you got to go buy all the ransomware domains. So
yeah, I was going to say, can I burn a couple paychecks again for this shit?
Black Hat, Lockbit.
Saving the industry one paycheck at a time.
Oh, I regret that.
We're gonna see a tweet to like at 4:30 John's in the morning John's time. It's gonna be just a screenshot of all the domains he bought.
I might buy zero.locker again. No one get it before I do.
Hold on. Who's the quickest on the checkout?
How much does it go for? Listen, all right. Sorry, rabbit hole.
They're always good.
But yeah, on that story with that they used was that they used was I think to run commands or to administer the endpoint that they had infected, or what they do, collect information. But at the end of the day, they just want to install a crypto miner, which is so odd, right? I mean, it's odd to us, but you could do so much, but you chose to install a crypto miner, and they targeted, reading from that story, I think they targeted people who are just downloaded cheats and things like that. So a lot of gamers would just go and download, like, kids would just go download, find something on YouTube, download something from the description, get infected, and the threat actors are just mining from a very powerful graphics card on the background, right? It's a good strategy, but yeah.
Why is any perimeter firewall or device that has an RCE always just instantly deploying crypto? Like, is it still viable to make like a bunch of money doing large scale exploitation of this? Like, has there been an analysis, like anybody who tracks this? Like, is there an org who? I always see that. It's always the first thing that I see is like, oh, it's a crypto miner. Oh, it's a crypto miner for like IIS or whatever. Like, is that still lucrative to actually generate money from, like at scale?
Maybe.
I mean, if they keep doing it, it must be, right?
Yeah, but it's for individual most of the time. It's not like a group, I believe. No, is it?
I don't know.
I don't know. There's been
out of my area expertise.
There's been like crypto mining and like e-crime kind of things like linked to APTs and stuff. So not to say that they're the first mover on that, but
yeah, most of the well-knowns are North Koreans for sure, because that's how they get their stuff. But yeah, as Costa said, gamers are so gullible. Like the Pokemon leaks, I found some stuff shared on Discord that you download, and hey, you're doomed. So
we've all been there, right? When we were young, I downloaded.
What do you mean we're young? I almost got infected. What do you mean?
I was like, this is like 2 hours ago. What are you talking about?
I wanted to see the leaks, so no.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
Just download things for cheats and things like that for games.
Yeah,
it's expected.
Right. I know we're coming up on time, but there was one question that we didn't get to. That was in the comments. This is for Costas. What's next for the EDR telemetry project?
I have plans on. What I'm looking at the moment is just implementing the Linux side of that, and I have started with the subcategories, which is going to be similar to Windows, but obviously different based. So it will be a little bit different on how the table is populated with categories, subcategories. I'm thinking of, I will start with what Sysmon, the capabilities of Sysmon, and just see what other EDRs can, collect from hosts. But I want to have at least 4 or 5 EDRs before I make it public, or and that's what I want to do. But at the same time, there is so much to fix as well, or not to fix, but to improve on the Windows side of things. And we have vendors that are reaching out, hey, can you fix this? And I'm very happy to do it, but there is no time to do everything. And this is just a side project for me. And like some people don't understand that, but it's
why don't you just charge them to update it?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, that's a good way. It's a good way to sponsor the project if you want to. And I created a website recently, and I have added a sponsorship option for people to get in touch with me and talk about that. But really, I want to do the Linux side and then possibly the Mac side. But you have to do many DRs, and you know, when you make it public, you want to have at least 5 or 6. So it will take time. But this is what I want to. This is what I envision for the project. Yeah.
Who is going to sponsor you? Is that the big guys will come, and then you'll become the next Mighty Ingenuity? So.
Yeah, well, that would be super cool.
It's not
I don't think
payoff.
that would ever
It's
happen.
sponsoring, but please don't mention that we don't cover RPC.
Yeah. And I actually had a conversation with someone over there, and I want to help in some ways, especially around the defend projects and what they do over there. So there will be probably some updates on that. Hopefully the project that I have will help them demonstrate data a little bit different. And I know I'm not very clear, but it's in the works. So hopefully something will happen around that. But yeah, this is what I have in the plans for the EDR telemetry project, and I want to add more vendors, and people are reaching out. Where is this vendor and where is that vendor? Many vendors have the documentation publicly accessible for everyone to go and see, and I can use that to make to create an entry for them. But a better way is to test, and we have a tool that we have created. Me and Nas created that tool that uses atomics to go and generate the telemetry. So if you have a vendor that is not in the project and you have access to that EDR, you can just go and run that PowerShell tool that will use atomics. Just make sure you have the EDR on the detection only, right? And then download that PowerShell script, run it, and see what telemetry is generated, and see what you have visibility over. And a lot of people, and that will be lastly, I guess, a lot of people confuse telemetry with detection, and the project is showing what is available, what is the capabilities for not capability. Yeah, I guess the capabilities that we have visibility over as an end user to generate telemetry over. That doesn't mean this project is bad or it cannot detect XYZ. I mean, you can infer that if you don't have the visibility to detect image load, for example, you might not be able to detect all this DLL side loading that's happening with high efficiency. Maybe you can detect it, but with static methods, for example, maybe pulling configuration from these LOL projects, right? And creating detections over them. But you won't have the capability of seeing this activity on your logs. So it doesn't mean that the EDR cannot detect XYZ. So telemetry is not equal detection, but and many people confuse with that. But we want, as end users, we are just fed up with black boxes. We want to see what the EDR, what is the visibility over your host. So as an end user, I want to see what is the telemetry that I can have access and create my own detections first of all, or go and do a threat hunt based on this telemetry. I don't want, if I have a capable team of creating a detection specific, which is going to be a signal specific for that organization, I want to be able to do that. I don't want to rely on the vendor, right? And in order for you to do that, you want to have the telemetry. So yeah, it's not necessary that an EDR is not performing well if it doesn't have XYZ telemetry, but it's a good sign, if it does. And yeah, it's it's gonna be it's gonna take some time to put all the different DRs that people want, but we'll get there. We'll get there slowly. I have many people who want to contribute, and I'm doing a review of different EDRs, and it takes time to do a review and make sure that every single entry is verified with, proof that they are sending me over and things like that. So that's why it takes a lot of time as well to verify something. But yeah, I'm trying to fit everything in a very short period of time. But yeah, this is what my vision is for the project, and this is what I think people should know about it. And hopefully, we will. There is so much plans for the project, and there is a lot of. It's a good, I guess. There is a lot of good things that we can do with it. So yeah, looking forward to be doing all those things, but things take time, so be patient.
One other thing, Kostas, I believe somebody mentioned that on Twitter. Maybe it's good to clarify it. Somebody was, I don't know, criticizing that, hey, you're saying it has telemetry, but it is behind a paywall. I believe it was related to Microsoft or something like that. It's good to clarify that the telemetry mentioned, the project doesn't go to the level where it is you need this subscription to enable this telemetry. Is that this EDR has the capability to show this telemetry? Right. And then because I saw somebody saying that because probably he didn't understand it. I don't know, but yeah, it's worth noting that it doesn't tell you how to obtain the telemetry per se, because some people have different tiers for different, I don't know, logs they offer, especially Microsoft.
Yeah.
So that's also worth noting, I say.
And we're trying to make sure that we note this down. So if someone provides a different telemetry that we thought that the software does not have the capabilities of producing, but it turns out that it does, but via enabling a feature, a subscription or something else on that, for that software, for that EDR, we note it down as via enabling telemetry, which means that you have to have the subscription for this EDR to enable that feature. And if that's the case, we make sure we note it down. So it's not the default. By default, you might not have this. So people are aware. But yeah, good point. I know it's not very straightforward a lot of the times to make this differentiation between between detection and telemetry, and because many people are saying, well, I've done XYZ and I tested it out and I saw a detection popping up, so we have visibility. But this is not what you see from a detection, because this is coming from a behavioral logic or a static detection that has been created by this company. It's a black box you don't have visibility over. What we want to show people is the telemetry that the end user has access to and can see. So if you can't see image load, for example, but you can still detect something related to an attack that is using that method, the telemetry is still not going to be there. So people, and we want to see events, specific events. We don't want to infer activity based on detections and detection logic. We want to see the telemetry event that has been generated. So for a scheduled task, for example, one can create a scheduled task using the command prompt, and you can use the binary to create the scheduled tasks, right? And then in the EDR, you can see the detection that the scheduled task was created, for example, for something, and you can see a tag related to scheduled task. We don't care about that because there might be a different way of creating a scheduled task using Windows APIs, so you won't be able to see that. So what we want to do is we want to expect a specific event related to a scheduled task, and not an inferred event from a process creation or a different method detection, things like that. So I know this is, I'm trying my best to differentiate and make sure that I make things clear when it comes to that, but it's not always easy to grasp those concepts. But yeah, EDR telemetry is not equal to detection, and it doesn't mean that the product is bad.
Yeah, that's
what is this view?
Comprehensive to say the least, and I'm sure not an easy lift. So quite impressive work there for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, there is a lot of nuances, and I understand that might not be straightforward, but yeah, it's doing the best to explain things.
Especially something that's nebulous and black box, as in what does my EDR collect, and especially when, right? Like, I think some people don't really get the concept of event filtering, where in some cases it won't collect that telemetry until certain criteria is met, or once you've reached a certain threshold, it's not going to collect it in a rolling window, right?
Yeah.
Telemetry collection is expensive to store it. Right? Vendors need to make money at the end of the day, but there's also a balance of getting the right amount of telemetry to ensure that you can detect coverage. At that point, it becomes a numbers game. So I think it's a great project for, again, just kind of showcasing what's the priority, what do you care about, especially based on threat modeling or what you're concerned for.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and it's difficult to, exactly on what you said, it's difficult to pinpoint like what telemetry do you want to collect from registry. There is so many different registry events that are happening on a host every single second. You will fill up a terabyte in a minute.
You know what I find it very interesting, this project. I like it because we sometimes get caught up on the idea that we should know about the black box. But you shouldn't care about that. You should only care about the things you can handle, which is writing detections, if you can write detections. Like if the vendor says, I detect XYZ, well, good for you. It's a software. If they want to update it, they can update it. But you, as a user, you shouldn't take them at face value. Say, I detect because they have this engine who detects whatever 17 techniques of scheduled tasks, like you said. But then next week, a new technique is released. Then it becomes a software game. Like you need for them to release an update, blah, blah, blah. But if they offer the telemetry, then you can do it on your own. And it's a balanced game. That the discussion, like when you see the Michaud coverage thingy, it's skewed the game a little bit, because many people think that, oh, coverage for this means coverage for everything. But it is coverage for a certain amount of TTPs. Like you might be interested in other things that the telemetry might offer, or it might not, or it might offer in a very limited amount. And the discussion needs to be shifted that way. Because you don't buy software because of the roadmap. You buy it for what it is and what it offers you right now. Like, yes, this EDR is better right now. Next 5 years, they might get worse, and vice versa. But you, as an engineer, you should only care about what you can write right now. Like, can I detect RMMs? Do I have registry? Cool. End of story. And I don't care about your internal detections.
Yeah, exactly. And we were using static detections and preventions, from AV, and I think we have evolved as an industry, and we want to not just have a black box on our systems. We want to see what this software that we have installed can produce. What's the capabilities of it? And I said it's not an EDR that does not show you what telemetry it's generating. Doesn't mean that it's bad, but again, you can make a fair assumption that it might not be able to have the capability of producing that telemetry, or having the visibility of that specific thing that you want to see. So that's problematic. So many vendors have actually, since the start of the project, have reached out to me, and they have improved their EDR a lot. And you can see them, basically this was my target for this project. I want EDR vendors to be able to show what they can capture using their EDR agent, and then improve it. So it was just a motivational tool to improve the telemetry and what they show to the users, or what they make available to their users. So yeah, just happy to see that when this happens.
Now, it's always great when something can shed a light and hopefully drive innovation and progress forward for large scale, especially vendors that are making billions on a software that, you know, is in probably like 80% of organizations around the globe. So
yeah, exactly.
One small thing to make big changes.
Yeah,
let's go. That's right.
I think I had a lot of your time with ADR project. So yeah, feel free to move on to the next topic.
Yeah, it's all good. It's a great way to wrap. Obviously, that's where pretty much Atomics came from, was EDR. So I mean, this ties in perfectly.
Yeah, I was thinking that same exact thing, like small beginnings, right? Like I think Atomic's been around, I think 6 years now. And the whole idea of it was, does my EDR detect or collect this? You know,
is this thing on?
Yeah, is this thing actually on?
Is my MDR vendor on?
Yep. Yeah.
Is what it kind of evolved to.
Yep. Which is really cool.
Yeah, it's also made users curious. Oh, why can I not see that? You know, before I didn't know that all the other EDR vendors can show this to their users, but my EDR vendor does not. Why? I want to have that. So it kind of like woke up the users that were living with their EDR being a black box, and now they want more, and that's a good thing.
Yep. Absolutely.
Always.
Like the princess kissing a frog and it turns into a prince. No, different.
No, that's a good analogy.
Same, but different.
Well,
we made it.
Thank you all. Thank you all for joining.
Yes. Thanks, everybody.
Sergeant.
Next time, I'll just do a live.
We'll do a special episode.
This was fun. Thanks to you guys for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for everybody who came on. It was fun. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah,
good.
We'll have to go bigger for New Year.
Yeah,
we had a good session last year. We'll go bigger this year.
Yeah, Dave will respond by then, probably.
Yes. Yes. I'll ping him again.
Spam him.
What? Yeah. Don't forget, we still have to do the EDR C2 bake-off like we did for
That's right.
C2s. Don't
That's right.
Don't even forget, Mike. I gotta find that website again. I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
What would that be? Sorry.
So we're gonna do like a March Madness tournament bracket for EDR vendors, where we're gonna decide what the best EDR is purely by popularity contest, because that's how InfoSec likes to work. So
it has to be that way because
we're coming after Forrester.
Many EDR vendors can be litigious.
Yep.
Yeah, we are going to
rely on us.
Love it.
People will pay us for our analysis of EDRs.
Yep.
We have become the analysts.
We've taken over.
Awesome.
What's this black van doing outside my window?
Hopefully we'll see you next time, Paul.
Yeah, maybe.
Suddenly extended PTO. So
yeah. All right, y'all. Thanks everybody for coming on. We'll catch you next time.
Everybody listening.
Thank you.
Toodles.
See y'all soon.
Cheers.